Hi, Rachel.
Hello.
How is post-graduation life?
Same as before.
Doesn't feel much different, huh?
No, I mean, I'm just working at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be better if like graduation meant you got a year off, didn't have to like do anything or something. But unfortunately, it just means you have to work jobs.
I mean, even like just a week to get recuperated.
Right. Well, you're gonna have 10 days starting on the 18th. Of course, they're gonna be kind of an intense 10 days, so
Yeah.
maybe
So
not
I
all about recuperation.
do get 2 days after that. That's Sunday and Monday. I get Monday off, so that'll be nice. By the way, I did fill out that form last night. I
Oh, okay,
forgot
great.
to do it.
I think we've got I think I heard from everybody then, so that's good. All right, so who is W or VHAM WV? Yep, I don't know who that is.
Caitlin,
That's Caitlin. Okay, all right.
can you hear me?
Yes.
It's actually Patty Shea. That's
Hi,
my
Patty.
hi.
I thought that sounded more like Patty than Caitlin, but
It was. She's coming.
I just want to make sure I didn't recognize. I was like, I hope that's not some weird person who just happened to wander into our meeting. I guess that sometimes happens on Zoom, although it hasn't happened to me before. So, but I don't care if it says your name on the screen as long as I know you're in the right place. So that's fine.
Hi, Caitlin. Hi.
Give everybody a few minutes. We got a few other people joining. Looks like we'll give people just a couple minutes, see if we can get as many as possible in here. Aaron's like on the move.
Hi. Somebody's rocking out on their motorbike. Mute myself, shouldn't I? Is it only us?
No, can you not see everybody else?
Oh, sorry. Then I better.
Looks like we got 6 plus me as of right now. So I'll give it just a minute and see if anybody else decides to pop in.
More meetings.
Okay, well, I don't see anybody else popping in right now. So if they happen to jump in, well, I'll let them in. Thanks, everybody. I know this is annoying. I keep calling these Zoom meetings and sending you different emails. But you know, we're traveling and lots of logistical stuff, especially with COVID. I had a big discussion with my contact at EF Tours a couple days ago. And there was just some stuff that's really important that I want to make sure I pass along. And also, now that we know where our hotels are and things, I've been able to look at our itinerary and kind of try to map things out. And I want to give you a little more detail on what, especially the days in Florence and Rome look like. And I want to give you a chance to see like if there's some free time, some options for you, whether you want to go somewhere I'm going, or ask me to take you somewhere, or if you just want to be on your own. All those things are options, but it is good to think about it a little bit in advance. So if, like, we're on the ground in Rome and we come out of a museum and it's like 10:30 in the morning, I'm like, okay, you have free time. You're not just like staring at the wall. So anyhow, it's good to plan a little bit in advance. So all right, so I'll kind of start going down my list. First off, everybody knows you have to get tested before the plane, which is a big dramatic moment of truth. It's a little bit scary right now because COVID numbers are going up in our region. So do your best to be careful in the next week. It might be good to start wearing your mask in public places you haven't been wearing your mask, things like that. In the end, I'm probably more vulnerable than most of you because I have like 4 kids in public school who come home every day bearing whatever, germs were circulating in the air at their schools. So I'm hoping I'll be safe, though of course we have no guarantees here. I did want to just let you know, so everybody knows you need to take your at-home test within 24 hours of our flight taking off. So you need to do it late on the evening of the 17th. You need to you can print it off physically or at least take a digital photograph of your test results. And you need to have that on you for the duration of the trip. It's probably good to do something like email it to yourself as well, just in case for some reason the original file, we can't get access to. We can go to your email and find it. It's a good way to back digital things up. If things go bad and you get a result that is not the one we want and you test positive for COVID, on the bright side, you don't just like lose all your money. So that's good. There's basically 2 options. If you test positive on the night before the trip, you either can get all of your money as a credit towards a future trip with EF Tours, or you can get all of your money back less $500. So not that $500 is nothing, but at least you would theoretically still get the bulk of your money back if things go bad and you test positive. So again, hopefully we won't have to deal with that, but with the numbers going up in our area, it's certainly a possibility we need to at least be prepared for. If I test positive, then you guys are all taking a trip to Europe without a chaperone. And I talked to my contact. I said, what if I test positive? Like, well, one of the other faculty, usually what happens then is one of the other faculty members just like kind of like is in charge. I'm like, yeah, I'm the only faculty member on the trip. So apparently Aaron and Patty as the other adults of the group will be like, I don't know. I'm going to say that's not going to happen, but if it does, we'll play it by ear and figure it out. We'll hope. Okay. The good thing is if for some reason I were to test positive, can't go, the good thing is one of the things you're paying for through EF Tours is you're paying for someone called our tour director, who basically stays with our group everywhere we go. Her name is Maria. She is Italian. She is 63 years old. That's all I know about her, but she's been emailing me. Seems very nice. She's been very helpful to try to kind of arrange some things I'm looking to arrange for you guys. So she's with you everywhere you go. She checks you into hotels. She puts you on the buses. She takes you to museums, all those kind of things. So really the only thing you'd be missing is like, I can't talk your ear off while going to the museums, but my experience is most of my students don't like it when I do that anyway. So that's probably not that big of a loss. But so even if the worst were to happen and I couldn't go if I test positive, there is somebody who is being paid through EF Tours to basically chaperone you all and take you everywhere you need to be and things. So you'll be fine. But that's worst case scenario. Okay. With regard to being vaccinated and boosted, everybody knows vaccination. Yes, you need to be vaccinated. Hopefully everybody's done that. If you haven't, you're in trouble because you won't be able to come on the trip. With regard to boosting, if you have been boosted at any point, I know originally in the meeting I had back in March, they told me you needed to be boosted within 6 months. But as of right now, the restrictions in Italy are such that if you have had any booster after your original vaccine regimen, then you are good to go. Doesn't matter when the booster occurred. Where it gets a little tricky, if you haven't had a booster, then you have to look at the date in which you were originally vaccinated. this stuff is all available. Just so you all know, if you log into our EF Tours website, there's kind of a big giant box that says like COVID stuff here, and all these things are in there, but I'll just kind of walk through it. If you did Moderna or Pfizer, if you completed your original vaccine regimen before August 30th, 2021, so what, 10 months ago or so, then you would have need to be boosted since then. And so hopefully you've been boosted if that is the case. If your vaccine came after August 30th, then you will not have needed to be boosted. So if any of you are in a danger zone, please let me know, because I think they are really tight on this and we don't have a lot of time. I think we're past the date where you can get another booster. So please do let me know if for some reason you think you're not boosted or vaccinated properly for it. Another good piece of information. So as you all know, we need to be tested before we fly home. That's a United States law. And EF will arrange, they're going to take us all to a testing site and get us tested before our flight. Again, we're hoping we all test negative. On the good side, the cost is actually pretty cheap in Greece. So this is something you'll just have to pay for out of pocket when we're there. And they told me they think it's going to be about $30. So not horribly expensive, but do make sure you save $30 for the end of the trip, or have a credit card you can put it on or something like that. You'll need $30 basically on that last day before we go to the airport to be tested. So just kind of budget that in. If somebody tests positive, then, and I should say this is for the whole trip. If at any point anybody gets sick and tests positive along the way, one of the things, again, you're paying for through EF Tours is a kind of backup for that scenario. So you will have to quarantine, you'll have to, stay in a hotel room for an extra week in Europe and various other things. But EF Tours does pay for somebody to come and basically be a helper for you, to bring you meals and to do anything you need while you're quarantined. So hopefully, again, we don't have to do that, but at least the system kind of exists to help you out if need be. Okay. Mask wearing. So I know we've been, for the most part, sort of off of mask wearing where we are. Like I said, I'm going to encourage you to think about wearing masks if you go into public in the next week, just to be extra precautious. But more importantly, in Italy especially, mask wearing is still pretty tight. All the regulations are pretty severe. Not only do they require masks in pretty much any indoor location we go to. Again, I'm only telling you what they told me, so this is what they say. But the other thing is, they, at certain locations, I think especially places like the Vatican or museums, where there's going to be big crowds, they generally don't accept just like regular cloth masks. Like in America, we've been, for the most part, are accepted if you need to be masked. They want you to have a better mask. Now in America, you've probably heard the term like the N95 masks, like the really good ones that are better at filtering things out. They actually have a different standard mask in Europe to make this easy. It's called the FFP2 mask. It's basically just like an N95, but it has a different number on the outside. Now, as soon as I found this out, I went on Amazon and I ordered a 30-pack of FFP2 masks that look just like the N95 ones, but I haven't. So I have 30, which means, or maybe 20. I have 20. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring one. I'm going to hand out everybody one FFP2 mask when we get to the airport. So you can have that one on hand just in case we get in a place where they say, hey, you need an FFP2 mask. I would bet that's only going to be, 1, 2, 3, 4 places where that would be the case, but still good to have it on hand if you need it. And then I'll carry around an extra, 8 or so in my bag. So if we have emergencies, hopefully I've got a few on hand. But I definitely would encourage you to plan on bringing an N95 mask. I also have a big pack of those I'm going to bring too, so I'll have some extras of those on hand. But if you want to, test it out, make sure it fits you properly and things before that. It's probably good to plan on wearing an N95 mask most places rather than just wearing a traditional cloth mask, just so you don't have to worry about whether people are going to make you switch and question whether you have the proper mask on. Apparently Greece is much more laid back about it, but Italy is pretty tight. So just beware of that. Was one of the things I didn't know going into my meeting, is the FFP2 masks. So don't feel like you have to order some, because like I said, I'll give you one, but if you want to order some, there's the pack on Amazon. There's some on Amazon that are available. Okay, one of the things that was good news too in our meeting, you guys know that about half, or maybe a little over half, of our dinners are included on our trip. Traditionally, when I've traveled with EF Tours, the way dinner worked is it's just a set menu. You get it like an appetizer of some kind, you get a main course, and you get a dessert. Traditionally, if you wanted any kind of drink other than water, especially if you wanted alcohol, if you wanted beer or wine, that was something you had to pay for out of pocket. But EF now is giving you beer and wine for free, apparently. So at the meals that are included, you get the meal, but you also get a drink. So it can be a soft drink, or they told me on the thing, it could be a glass of wine or a glass of beer as well. So kind of a nice little benefit. I didn't know it was coming, that you get a drink along with your meal. I don't think I've had anybody report to me any dietary restrictions. If you do have that, or if I'm missing that, or if I missed an email or something, please do let me know, because I haven't seen any, I don't think. It's a little late to be reporting it, but we might still be able to kind of get in advance and let people know if you're a vegetarian or a vegan or whatever it might be. So maybe I'll just ask real quick, just so I know, is anybody who is on this call have any dietary restrictions you need to let me know about? No? Okay. All right. Well, that makes it easy then. Okay. One of the things, let me skip. So with regard to packing, our trip obviously isn't as long now as it was when we were originally thinking about it. If you want to try to just pack everything in a smaller suitcase that you can take as a carry-on, you're welcome to do that. The upside of that is you don't have to worry about your bag possibly being lost if you check it, which is always a risk. The downside of it is it's a smaller bag. So if you have a lot of things you want to pack, it limits it. And also you'll just have to kind of lug the bag around the airport and into the overhead bins on the plane, things like that. But we do get a checked bag for free as long as it's under 50 pounds. So if you want to pack a bigger bag and check it, that's perfectly fine. I'm going to do that just because I don't like lugging my suitcase around when I don't have to. The only thing you want to be aware of is there is a chance that in some of the hotels we're in, they won't have like good elevators. So you may have to walk up 3 or 4 flights of stairs carrying your bag. If it's just one bag and then like a small backpack, usually people are okay doing that. The problem is if you have like a checked bag and a second like rolling suitcase you took on, then it gets a little burdensome. But you do want to make sure whatever bag you have, you can carry it up a few flights of stairs if need be. We may not run into that. All the hotels might have elevators. That's not an issue, but I have had a few hotels that don't have an elevator, or it's such a terrible elevator that you don't want to use it because you have to wait like 10 minutes, especially when a whole group shows up. I don't think we have, the good thing is I don't think we have any places where having a larger bag is going to be a real problem, because for the most part, we're going to have a bus drop us off right at the front of every hotel. We'll get out, grab our bags, wheel them right into the hotel. And then when we leave the hotel, we come out and the bus is right there and we put them right on. When we were originally going to try to do the cruise, there was going to be some times where we were going to be like trekking through cities a little bit when we were on our own to try to get to airports and things. But that's not the case anymore. We'll have a bus basically be dropping us off and picking us up from every hotel. So other than carrying it up a few flights of stairs in a hotel, it shouldn't be much of an issue if you have a larger bag. If you do check a bag though, do bring some essentials in a carry-on, maybe an extra change of clothes. If you have any things like medications or valuables, if you have a fancy DSLR camera, I would not put those things in a carry-on bag and bring those with you on the plane. I mentioned in the email to you, one of the things I'm really excited about is we got great hotels. I've been on 5 EF tours, and these are the best hotels I've ever seen. I don't know if it's COVID or what, but we have really good hotels. Usually to me, it's all about location. So the closer we are into the middle of the city, the better. It's very rare that EF has put me in a hotel in the city center in a large city, in like Paris or Rome or Athens, I've never been in anywhere near the city center. It's always like, cool, the subway goes out this way and you can ride the subway for 20 minutes and be in the city center, which isn't terrible, but definitely not as good as being there. On our trip right now, of our 4 hotels, 3 are right in the middle of the city. So it's really great. So in Rome and Athens and Delphi, we're right in the middle of the city. Florence, which is interesting because Florence usually I've always had a hotel closer into the city because it's a little smaller town. We're kind of off in the Tuscan countryside, which is sort of beautiful looking from the pictures I've seen. And we really are actually not in Florence for very long. So I think it'll be fine. We'll just arrange for the bus drivers to bring us in and out of the city. So, and we'll figure out a way to get back into the city if you want to go in for like a night in Florence. But anyhow, our hotels are really great and they're going to make doing some of the things we want to do on the ground a little bit easier. One thing I will say is hotels in Europe are just very different. They're usually old buildings that weren't hotels originally, have been repurposed. Some of the things that are really normal or just like almost unthinkable to not have in a hotel here in the States, like are pretty normal to not have them over there. So one of those things is air conditioning. Sometimes hotels either don't have air conditioning or it's just not very good air conditioning. I don't think it shouldn't be super hot when we're there. So I don't think, and we're really not in the hotel too much. The issue is mostly nights. And I think hopefully while we're there, since we're, late May, hopefully it'll cool off enough in the evening that an open window or whatever should be all right. If you really are worried about that, if you wanted to bring like a little clip-on fan or something like that, if you're concerned about it for your hotel room, you certainly could probably fit one of those in a larger bag. Wi-Fi is another thing that, again, is pretty standard. Any hotel you go to in America, like they're going to have some Wi-Fi connection that's pretty reliable. It can be a bit sketchier in Europe. Sometimes the Wi-Fi works well. Sometimes it's like, oh no, it works good for like 10 people. But once we get into person number 11, it's really slow. So that's a thing. There are a lot of, public cafes and things will also have Wi-Fi. There's Starbucks and McDonald's over there that have Wi-Fi. So it's not like there's no Wi-Fi. I'm just setting the bar a little bit lower than what you might expect in a normal hotel in the States. On the plus side, one of the things that EF did this year, which is new for them, is most of you are paying for either 4 people in a room or 3 people in a room. So most of you will be in that unless it's Patty and Kat or Aaron. And who have to pay a little more to get a 2-person room. But one thing they used to do is in the 4-people room, sometimes you would just have like 2 queen beds and you had to share a bed, but no longer. Apparently now everybody gets their own bed in every room. So even if you have 3 or 4 people in a room, you should always have your own bed. So that's nice. To have at least a little space to your own in the rooms. Okay. One of the things that's really important that I guess I kind of messed up on, but we have plenty of time to fix it, but it's a little weird. So if you guys remember back when I did the big meeting in, I think March, maybe it was before that, when we met in person, I mentioned that one of the things you have to do is tipping. Now, EF has changed things. We used to have to tip bus drivers and local tour guides and our tour director, that person who stays with us everywhere. I was told early in the year that the EF's changed it and they've rolled the tips for the bus drivers and the local tour guides into just the price you paid EF. So you don't have to worry about tipping our bus driver and you don't have to worry about tipping our tour guide. We do still need to worry about tipping our tour director, the person who stays with us everywhere. They recommend that we tip that, everybody tips that person $6 a day. And I will say that person does a lot of work for us. They tend to earn their keep. They arrange lots of things. Even this week when she's not technically being paid for our tour, she's been running around making phone calls, trying to get reservations and check on things for me. What that means is that in all, everybody will need to do a $60 tip unless we have terrible service. And if we do, whatever, kids don't need to tip. But assuming they do a good job, they've asked us to tip $60 per person for our tour director. Now, I was originally told, I thought from EF that they were going to collect this money, but in the conversation I had yesterday, they said, no, you are wrong, Dr. Coulter, that is not happening. So the best way to do it, rather than having each of you have to remember to get 60 euros or whatever, 50, it would be probably like 55 euros or something like that on the last day. It really is easier for me to just collect it from all of you in advance, which I'm hesitant to do because I've been asking you guys to send me so much money and I keep sending it back to you and we keep playing this horrible game. But it's probably easier if you just send me $60 each, and then I will just take all of that out from an ATM in Europe and I will tip the tour director at the end of the trip. If for some reason along the way you think our tour director was terrible and you're like, she does not deserve my tip money, I will give you back your tip money. But hopefully that won't be the case. Now, on the plus side, because one of the things I also want to talk about in a minute is museum admissions with you. And probably most of you will be sending me a little bit of money to pay for a couple tickets for museums that we're going to book in advance. The good thing is we can kind of roll that all into one thing. So we can hopefully limit our transactions a little bit here. I'm going to hold off on the museum admission conversation though after I go through kind of the itinerary with you. Though. So we'll get to that. But so $60 sent to me, and we can do this one of two ways. And I should say this is the same for the museum admissions when we get there. For those of you who use Venmo, which was most of you, that's probably just the easiest way. Again, you can Venmo it to my wife. I think Emma already sent some in, but I think for everybody else, that's easy. For those of you who don't use Venmo, if you want to just bring me cash at the airport, that's fine too. We can do that. But if for those of you who've used Venmo, that's probably the best way to do it. So I'll come back to the money in a minute after we talk about the itinerary and give you some options for museums. Just one second. I haven't had my chat open, so I would make sure there's any. Okay, good. There's nothing entirely important in the chat. Okay. So sorry, not that your messages aren't entirely important there. They're welcome and important. Okay. So one of the things I wanted to get some feedback from you guys on, you can either post things in the chat or if you want to say something out loud, is where I am terrible is cell phone communication, because I don't have a cell phone. Normally I will have one for the trip, but I don't carry one. I don't live on a phone. It is good though on a trip to have some way that as a group we can communicate with each other. Simple things like every day we'll have like a time we need to be on the bus. It's like, okay, everybody needs to be on the bus by 8 o'clock in the morning because we're leaving for Rome or whatever. And sometimes that's consistent. We know in advance and we usually tell you in person, but it's also good to be able to like send a text out or connect with everybody, just to remind everybody in case they forgot and you have it written down and things like that. Or if we're meeting somewhere, or maybe if I have a good place that I know for dinner, I'm like, hey, if you guys want to meet me for dinner, here's a spot. I should say I have a policy, and this is a little bit of a weird tour, probably weirder for you than me though. I don't know, maybe for me, I'm the only male individual on the tour. And so here's my policy. And this is my policy, even if there's men on the tour with me or boys on the tour with me, is I don't ever invite myself to do anything with you guys. I don't want to be like, hey, where are you guys going? Like, that's just not my thing. That seems weird. That being said, I am perfectly happy to hang out with you guys whenever you want me to. So feel free, if you are doing something and you're like, hey, Dr. Coltrane, come meet us for dinner. I'll be like, great, I'd love to. But don't feel like you have to do that to me too, or I'll be super sad if you don't. I'll survive and it'll be okay. So just so you know, I'm not going to like impose my will on your plans. You can do what you want, but feel free if you want me to join you. I have no problem doing that. And usually I'm fun, usually. Okay, so here's the thing. I don't know a lot of stuff, and if you guys have a better idea, I am happy to listen to it. As I talked to the EF person, they said what people have found abroad is the best way for a group to communicate is through the app WhatsApp. I don't know if anybody uses WhatsApp or not. It's essentially just a texting app that, of course, Facebook owns, because Facebook owns everything people use. And I guess the benefits of it are it doesn't charge you. When you're abroad, sometimes your phone company will charge you like per text if you use your regular text messaging stuff. But WhatsApp doesn't do that. So it's also apparently outside of the US, like the most, because of this, it's like what everybody uses to like text essentially. Like any text message kind of thing, you can create like a group scenario. Oh, good. So Vivian, so Vivian has our WhatsApp experience. She used to talk to her parents in Europe. So I think it's probably the best plan unless other people have a better suggestion. I did download it to my phone and at least looked at it. It looks like you just download it, kind of put in your phone number. And then I think the only thing we'll have to do is just kind of make a group where we, get each other's phone numbers and things. I don't know if it's best, if you want to email me your phone number in advance, that's perfectly fine. I'll put it in my phone. If you want to text me, that's another way we could do this, and I can just reply. I will send out my number again. I sent it in a previous email, but I will send it again, and I'll read it for you offline. I literally have to look it up because I don't even know my own phone number because I don't use a phone. But actually, I think I do know it, but I'm gonna double check. So if you want to write it down, but I will email it to you. It is, oh, where is it? Shoot, thought I had it. Just 1 second. I know it. It's 304-919-0968. And I didn't even see it. I memorized it, but I just double checked. I found it. That is it. So 304-919-0968 is me. So feel free if you want to text me, and then tell me who you are, because I probably won't know. Be like, hey, this is Vivian. And then, oh, it's going to start buzzing. Cool. And then I'll have your phone numbers, and I can try to, once I get WhatsApp going, try to create a group. But I would encourage everybody to download the WhatsApp app and just like, set up your little account thing there. And then we'll try to create a group on there. And that way we can all communicate while we're abroad whenever we need to. Okay. If anybody has a better plan, feel free to email me about it, or if you want to speak up, you're welcome to. But I guess that seems like the best plan. Okay, I will say the other thing, I don't know if it's worth doing or not. EF Tours has an app they just developed this year. I just downloaded it and looked at it. To be honest, as of right now, all it has is our itinerary there, which is the same thing that's online. So I don't know that it's a huge benefit. I guess the one thing that can change is it can do real-time itinerary adjustments. So if on the fly, we're like, oh, tomorrow we're going to do that, we can do this in the morning. It can be added to the official itinerary there. I will send you with an email. Basically, after you download the app, you need a number for our program and an access code, like a password kind of thing. I'll send you that info. If you want to download that app, you're welcome to, though, like I said, it didn't seem like it was the most helpful thing in the world. So whatever you want to do with that. Okay, so let me stop. Anybody have questions? I'm going to go through the schedule here, and then I'm going to talk about the museums and admission and the money and stuff. But are there any other questions about stuff along the way anybody has? No? Okay.
Oh, I do have one question.
Yeah, go ahead, Rachel.
So I don't know. I'm trying to figure this out. So would a Visa, if you were to go to your local Walgreens or whatever and buy a Visa card that you can put money on, would that work over there?
For the most part, yeah, pretty much all the credit card systems are just about the same. It used to be a little different. Remember when we also used to swipe our cards and now we insert the chip, right? It used to be Europe was ahead of us and they all had the chip way before we did. So it would be weird when we go to Europe and we'd have these cards, we want to swipe them and they look at you like you're a crazy person from the 60s. But now that we all have chips in our card, for the most part, I think if you buy a prepaid Visa, as long as it has that chip in it, it should work in stores. The only thing I don't know is when you generally use a credit card, they have some kind of fee for each transaction when you're changing money in overseas. So if you buy it in dollars here, if I use my American Express or whatever over there, I don't know what I have to look up and remember. I don't use it very often over there. There'll be a 99-cent transaction fee, or maybe it'll be 2% of the transaction is charged as a transaction fee. The only thing I don't know, because I haven't ever bought a prepaid Visa, I don't know how they handle those transaction fees. So that might be the only thing to look into if you can do some research online to see if the prepaid credit cards have those transaction fees and how much they are, if they're really steep or something like that. Do definitely make sure to notify your bank. If you have an ATM card, just check and make sure there's not horrible fees on top. And if there is a big fee, just try to take out enough euros maybe on the first day or something like that to cover you for most of the trip. But I do think it is good to have a kind of credit card of some sort as a backup. So I guess I don't fully know the answer to the question because I haven't bought one of those prepaid cards and used them in Europe. So we may have to check into that. But if you do have a credit card, just like a regular one, they pretty much work everywhere in Europe. They tend to take Visa more than they take American Express, probably no big surprise. Visa and MasterCard are more commonly accepted. But most places will take credit cards too. Any other questions?
I have a couple.
Yeah, what's up, Emma?
In the PowerPoint that you sent, with all the itinerary stuff and
Mhm.
everything, there's a section that says additional minor costs under $100 for transportation to like the train station and back and forth from Florence to Ravenna, and then from the airport in Florence. Do we need to have euros for that,
So
or?
most of the things you just listed actually are no longer occurring because that was mostly on the itinerary when we were doing the cruise on our own. And
Okay.
then we were going to have to figure out how to get around a little bit more on our own without EF Tours having a bus to like pick us up and drop us off. So at this point, I would say all that stuff, the extra cost to get to and from airports, that's all now just included. We don't have any of that stuff anymore. So pretty much with regard to cost, what you're looking at is you get breakfast every day, lunch is on your own most days. So if you budget between 10 to 20 bucks per lunch, even though you can probably do it cheaper if you want, it just depends how you want to eat. And then we have about half of our dinners that you'll pay for. So again, maybe 20 to 30 for dinner if you want to sit down for a meal. And then outside of that, and the things we're going to do in advance. So we're going to do a number of our museum missions in advance, and the tip you're going to send me in advance. On the ground, outside of your food, there will be very few like necessary costs. Obviously, souvenirs is the big one. Alcohol is another one that sometimes will run people up pretty substantial bills if they want to like go out at night and go to bars or clubs or whatever and drink. That can be a big cost, but that's kind of up to obviously the individuals. There will be, I think now that our hotels, to be honest, are right in the middle of each city, I don't even think there will be any real cost for transportation on your own. There might be a night where you want to get a cab or a bus somewhere, but it should be pretty limited because you should be able to walk almost anywhere in both Rome and Athens. So I think outside of food and souvenirs and alcohol, there will be really limited expenses on the ground. There might be one or two museums I'm going to mention that we're not going to have on the like formal itinerary, but that I think are good to go to, and I'll kind of walk there if people want to come with me. So maybe, again, maybe, I don't know, maybe 50 bucks for just things like that. But I think it should be pretty minimal. Obviously, you probably want to bring some money to get food, like maybe in the airport when we first get there, and in the airport when we're coming home. When we have a layover, you know, those kinds of things, you might want to grab a snack or some food, but pretty minimal costs.
Okay, awesome. The next question that I have is, we had originally, when we got email about canceling all the cruise stuff, you had said that there should be $170 credit on our EF accounts.
So some people, yeah. So it seemed like most people at that point, it depended if you were fully paid off right at that moment. If you
Okay.
were on like a monthly payment plan and you still had maybe like, 2 months to make the payment, then you wouldn't get a credit because you still had to make your 2 payments and they just adjusted the price of those payments. If
Gotcha.
you were fully paid off at that point, then you would have got the $170 credit. And I did look today. I know there's a few of you that still have it there. I am not totally sure. I can't remember. I asked a long time ago how they were getting that money back to you. But it will get back to you. Whether it gets back to you before the trip, I'm not totally sure. You could, if you have that credit though, and you need the money before the trip, I'd encourage you to call EF and say, hey, I have $170 credit on my account. I need spending money for my trip. Can you get me that money in the next week? And hopefully they have a way to send you a check that's expedited or something like that. So check in your own account. You should be able to see kind of like your payments and, where you'd look at what you owed and things. And it should let you know if you have that credit. There were a few of you I know who did, but not everybody.
And one last question, then I'll leave you alone.
No, you're fine.
On the continuing education form that we had to fill out,
Mm-hmm.
the last question on there is whether you plan to work toward a degree at Shepherd, a yes or a no question.
Uh-huh.
Then it says, if yes, contact the Graduate Studies Office. So does that mean graduate degree at Shepherd, or do we answer yes on that either way?
To be honest, I think you can, let me say this. Technically, this continuing education course, because it's kind of like outside the framework of a normal Shepherd course, it's not like a regular even 1-credit course, because the continuing education classes are aimed at like community members who aren't Shepherd students. The reason we do it for this is because it's the cheapest way. Because if you take a normal 1-credit class at Shepherd, it's like $300 or something like for that as a student. But for the continuing education, it's only $59. So that's why we do it this way. So basically, to be honest, it doesn't matter that much what you put. I would, to be frank, just put no and not worry about it. If you want to see if there is a way to have this 1-credit course like applied to a degree you are working towards, you could put yes, and you could contact the graduate office and see if there's a way they can figure out how to apply the credit. But if you're like, no, I don't need this 1 hour, I'm on pace to graduate and it's not going to make a real difference, then I just put, no down there.
Okay, awesome. Thanks so much, Dr. Cauldron.
No problem. Any other questions people have?
Okay, I don't know if I asked this before. The health stuff that is like what, $29 or whatever that you said should show up in our account.
Oh, the health insurance,
The health insurance, yeah.
right?
Where would I find that? Because I'm not seeing anything.
I don't know if it's been posted yet, though I know they're in the process. They're going to get me all of your insurance cards and things this week, they've told me. But I don't know if the charge has been posted yet. It basically, and I never know what this is like because I've never been a student at Shepherd, but the same place where in your student account, you would have like a tuition bill, or if you have fees you have to pay for parking tickets or anything like that, and however you pay those bills, that is where theoretically it should show up. Now, I know when we did this before, they like encouraged everybody to pay that before we went, but in the end, like whether you pay it before our trip or after our trip and you come back, like it's like you're going to have health insurance on the ground. So that's the good thing. But it is probably good to check that account in the days leading up to trip to just see if there's any charge there. If I get an email that says officially the charge has been posted, I will send an email out to the group just to give you a heads up and let you know they're there. But most importantly is, as of right now, all of your names have been submitted. Like all of you are going to have health insurance. Shepherd's going to bug you to pay for it, and get their money, but you'll be covered with the health insurance plan while we're over there. So I'll have for everybody at the airport, I'll give you an insurance card and some documentation, probably some paperwork that just like gives you instructions on, if you have to go to a doctor or a hospital, here's what you do to get reimbursed and things like that.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, so I want to just kind of run down our schedule for you, and I want to talk about each city, especially Rome and Florence, and give you a sense of what's going on. So day 1, we just get on the plane. Day 2 is the day we land. We don't land until about 2:30 in the afternoon. We'll have to get through customs as well. So even assuming everything goes smoothly, which sometimes it doesn't with air travel, but assuming it does, our connecting flight's good and everything, we get on the ground about 2:30. If you haven't traveled internationally before, one thing you have to do is you have to go through customs, which is kind of annoying. It just basically means there's a big giant line you have to wait. So you get off the plane, and instead of like being able to leave the airport, you have to then go wait in a line for, can be anywhere from 15 minutes to, in really bad ones, sometimes it's been an hour and a half or something like that. It can be annoying. Hopefully there's not as much international travel going on nowadays as there was sometimes, but maybe they've also reduced the number of customs officers. I don't know. So we will have to do that. That's all to say, it's hard to plan things on that first day because we just, between flights, who knows if they're late, and customs, how long that line will take, it's hard to actually plan anything that day. The other weird thing about that day is that day you're going to be like super exhausted, because basically you will have kind of hopefully slept on the plane. I will say one good thing about our flight is because it's leaving kind of late at night at like 9 o'clock or so, Hopefully our bodies are like kind of getting ready to go to sleep in the next few hours after that, if that's the kind of sleep schedule you're normally on. And maybe it'll be a little easier to sleep on the plane. One of the challenges normally is usually when I've flown internationally, we leave at like 6. And the problem is nobody's really tired for the first like 6 or so hours of the like 8-hour flight. And so it's harder for people to fall asleep. Hopefully it'll be a little easier. If you want to, bring any medications that help you fall asleep, that's an option. Just don't take something that's going to knock you so far out that you can't walk after sleeping. But you do want to try to sleep on the plane because that's the night basically. And jet lag's a real thing. We're going to get on the ground and you're all going to walk around a little bit like zombies that first day. But the good thing is, to be honest, the first day is kind of short because we might not get out of the airport till 4 o'clock anyway. So night's coming pretty quickly. That being said, our time in Florence is really short. I've really been trying to nudge our schedule a little bit and try to get some more time in Florence, but basically at every request I've made, EF said, listen, we can't move this thing. So you're stuck doing it the way we've got it planned. So in Florence, there's a few things that I just think if you're going to Florence, you should definitely do. One is to see Michelangelo's David. Now it's in a museum called the Academy, which was the old art school essentially in Florence. There is some other art in the museum, but pretty much there's like a shrine to Michelangelo's David at this point. So the good thing is it doesn't take a lot of time to go in and see it. You're basically going in and looking at one work of art and kind of leaving. But the trick is like when to do that in our tight itinerary. The other big museum, the big art museum in Florence, which has like most of the kind of iconic Renaissance art, like Botticelli's Birth of Venus, has one of Michelangelo's only oil paintings he ever did, which is like unbelievably beautiful. That's called the Uffizi Gallery. And those to me are the two things that if you go to Florence, other than we'll take as a group, we're going to take a tour of the city. We'll see the Duomo, the cathedral, which had the dome that Brunelleschi built, which hopefully some of you remember a little bit from Art 203. And so we'll see the Duomo, the big church. And we actually on our schedule have a tour of some gardens that belong to the Medici and a palace that belonged to the Medici. And so we'll tour through the city and then we've got some things there. But to me, the most important things outside of that are those two things, the Uffizi and David. Now, the trick is at this point, we really just have like one full day in Florence outside of that first day where we land and we're all tired and there's not much time before it gets dark anyways. What I think is our best strategy is to try, instead of getting with the Academy where Michelangelo's David is, you can get in there without advance reservations. You can just go get in a line, buy a ticket, go in. You frequently have to wait in a little bit of a line, which is annoying. But at the same time, it gives you some flexibility to just like show up and go when you want. So what we're going to try to do is if we can get through customs in time, I'm going to have the bus driver kind of take us straight there. So we're going to go right out of the airport, right straight to the Academy. And as long as the line isn't super long, we're just going to get in line and buy tickets and go in and see David. That way, it's actually kind of good because it gives you an activity like stay on your feet doing when you'll be really tired, because that's better than like giving you free time to just find a bench and lay down. And it's not too long. So we can hopefully check out David quick before it closes, and then we'll head to our hotel, get dinner. And it's a good night to not go out late at night because you're going to be exhausted. So it's kind of an early night that evening. So that's going to be our plan. Now, if we get there and customs is bad or our flight gets messed up, this is why I'm not buying. I could buy these David tickets in advance, but then if one of those things happens, we're just out our money if we miss our window when we have a reservation. So I think it's worth just kind of going and waiting in line. So I'm not going to have you send me money in advance for that one. We're just going to go wait in line and you can buy your ticket when we get to the front of the line for that one. For the Uffizi Gallery, it is not required, but very helpful to have a reservation. So I think what I'm going to try to do, unless, and I should say with these museums that I'm collecting money in advance of, there's going to be 2 of them. The Uffizi is one that I'm talking about now. If you don't want to go to it, if you're like, you know what, I really don't need to go to that museum, I want to spend my time in Florence shopping, you're paying for this trip. You have the right to do that. I will assume the default is people want to go to these 2 museums I'm going to buy admission for. But if you don't, send me an email tonight and just say, hey, Dr. Coltrane, I don't want to go to the Uffizi. and then I won't pre-book a ticket for you, and we don't have to worry about it. Okay, so my default is I'm just going to buy tickets for everybody and assume you are responsible people who will pay me back eventually. And then, but if you know you don't want to go, please do let me know. So the Uffizi, like I said, is the museum in Florence, has all the Renaissance art. I'm going to book reservations for that the first thing the next morning. So we'll go there and try to go there kind of like right as it opens early in the morning. Now, we have a tour that afternoon of the city and then of the palace and the gardens that starts at, I think, like 1:30. So you could take as long as you want on the Uffizi. Well, not as long as you want, but you could take, 3 hours, and that would be great. And then grab some lunch and be there for the tour. But at the same time, if you want to kind of cruise through it and check out Botticelli's Birth of Venus and a couple of the famous pieces, and then go have more time just seeing other things in Florence, that's an option as well. But I do think it's good. You are in Florence, so you should go check out at least a little bit of art. So I'm going to try to book that for early that morning, and then we'll have our kind of other tours in the afternoon. If we aren't able to see David that first day, Michelangelo's David, then we're going to try to go back after our tour that next afternoon to see it. But hopefully we will have seen it that first day we're on the ground there. And that way you'll have at least a few hours before it gets, before sunset to run around Florence and see other things you want to see, or just shop or do whatever you want. And then that night will be a good night, since it's our only night in Florence where we're not totally exhausted. We'll figure out something to make it so that we can get into this. For those who want to go back to the hotel, we'll give you a way to get back to the hotel. For those who want to stay out in the city, go to a bar, go to a club, just walk around the city at night and take pictures. We'll figure out a way, whether it's best on public transportation or it's best to have our bus driver come and meet us. We'll figure something out, because I want you to at least have that option. One of the things I've done before, which is kind of cool, that I'm going to talk to our tour director about, is up kind of across there's a main river that runs through Florence called the Arno. Kind of across the river, there's an elevated kind of spot, and it's a really beautiful spot to watch the sunset, and you get the whole vista of Florence with the Duomo and all those things, and it's really pretty. So if we have good weather, and if it's raining, it's not good, but if it's nice weather, might see if we can figure out either to catch a bus up there, or if we can have the bus driver take us up there and we kind of take some pictures and things like that, which is a nice thing to do also. So hopefully we'll have something like that planned that evening. So Florence is tight because we really lose that first day because of travel. There's just one full day. I will say there are a few other things in Florence that if you really wanted to see, I will either go with you or help you get there. And I just wanted to mention them to you, because I never know what things people really love and are invested in. Other things in Florence that I think are interesting. One is there is a museum called the Bargello. That is the museum that has Donatello's David. Those who've had me for classes, Donatello, that the younger nude boy wearing the fancy hat, which was the first kind of bronze nude sculpture since ancient Greece. It's in the museum called the Bargello. Now, the Bargello is easy to get into. You just walk in. It's I don't know, $10, something like that. You buy a ticket, you go in. It's like the sculpture kind of museum in Florence, and it's right in the middle of the city. So it doesn't take a ton of time. So that would be something, if you've got an hour or two even hanging out, you could pop over to the Bargello. A painting I have you guys frequently memorize in my class is Masaccio's painting of the Holy Trinity, which was one of the first. It's usually cited as kind of the first instance of one-point perspective in art. It's in a church that's a little bit out of the center of the city, but if people really want to see that, I could walk people over to that church if we have enough time. Another church that has a painting in it I show you guys in my classes, which is really close to the city center, and it's free, and you can walk in and just check it out quick. If you guys remember this painting, it's by an artist named Pontormo, and it's a painting of the Descent from the Cross. It's the painting I show you guys when we're talking about the Counter-Reformation. And it's this really weird painting of Jesus coming down off a cross with all these weird floating angels and like Easter egg kind of colors, and Jesus's body's kind of even lost in the scene and can't even find it. It's a really funky painting, and it's in a church just right there in the heart of the city. So that's another thing. If you're hey, Dr. Coltrane, I like that painting, I want to see it, I'll be great, I'll walk over with you and I'll show you where it's at. So those are a few of the things that I sometimes do with students when we have more time in Florence, is either go to the Bargello or go to a couple of these churches that just have some paintings in them. And of course, you can see the church as well. So if anybody, and you don't need to do this in advance, when we're on the ground there, if any of those things are of a lot of interest to you, feel free to let me know, and I can show you where they are on a map. We can arrange a time where I can take you there if you want to do that. Okay, so the next day, which is officially day 4, we're leaving pretty early in the morning to go to Rome because we have a scheduled this thing. I was hoping we could hang out in Florence this morning, but we can't because we have a scheduled tour of the Colosseum and the Roman Forum at I think 2:30 that afternoon. So we have to get on the road relatively early. You can sleep on the bus some more if you want. We'll undoubtedly stop and get lunch somewhere along the way and then get to Rome and do our tour of the Colosseum and the Forum. And then check into our awesome hotel. And I should say, I don't know if it's like a nice hotel. It might be kind of dingy, but it is awesome in that it is right in the center of Rome. And so from our hotel, there's a lot of stuff you can walk to within 5 or 10 minutes. That's really cool. So that night, we do have a dinner together that night, one of our included meals. We'll have pizza in Rome together. After that, if people want to go out into the city, I think that's Saturday. So I'm sure it's like a hopping nightlife section. There is a section of Rome that's just across the river that is sort of like the place where like college kids hang out. And there's like tons of bars and clubs and things like that. It gets pretty busy on weekend nights. I've taken students there a few times. So if there are people who want to do that, we can either walk down there, or if we want to catch a bus to make it a little easier, we can do that too. But that's an option that night. If you want to hang out, that's probably a better night than the next night, which is Sunday night, which will probably be a little bit more scaled back in Rome, but you can still go out and find stuff. So that'll be Saturday in Rome. Sunday in Rome is actually scheduled to be basically, it was on our itinerary as like our free day. There wasn't anything booked. So this is the day that I want to take you guys to the Borghese Gallery, which is the home of a cardinal named Scipio Borghese, who basically commissioned most of Bernini's most famous sculptures. So in this museum is Bernini's sculpture of David, Apollo and Daphne, and the Rape of Proserpina, which are probably 3 of the more remarkable sculptures you'll ever see. To be honest, like when you've seen David the day or two before, and then you see these 3 sculptures, like that's kind of the best sculpture you're ever going to see in your life. They're pretty remarkable. And this is a museum that requires reservations, so we can't just show up and go. So this is another one. I'm early that Sunday morning. I'm going to get a reservation as early as I can that morning. I think it opens at 8:30 or 9. And we'll have the bus, hopefully. It's a little bit, this museum's a little bit outside the city. And so we'll have the bus, hopefully not too far, but a little bit. I think it was like a 40-minute walk, which is not like close, but it's also like doable if you had to. But hopefully the bus will drop us off there. We'll go in for an hour or two into the Borghese. And then I'm going to kind of walk you guys through Rome back towards our hotel. And there's a couple really cool stops along the way. Now, I will say, after the Borghese, if you want to just go on your own and go shopping or whatever, like, I'm not going to, this is just an option, but I think these are really cool things. One is, as we walk down from the Borghese, it's not too far from a little church called Santa Maria della Vittoria. And I want to take you to it. And the reason is that's where Bernini's sculpture of the Ecstasy of Saint Teresa is, which is the other probably most remarkable Bernini sculpture. Now it is a Sunday. I don't know if they still actively have services in this. It's a little teeny church. I checked. It says they're open from 8:30 to 12 on Sunday, so we should be able to get down there before noon. So I'm hoping that we can do that. But with it being a Sunday and it is a small church, sometimes they're just closed at weird times. But we'll try to hit that one that day. And then just another like 5 or 10 minute walk from there is the one other museum in Rome I'm going to encourage you to go to. Now, this one is one that's not super crowded. We don't need reservations. You can walk up and just like buy a ticket really easily. It's called the National Roman Museum. And the reason I really like to take students there is it has the sculpture of the seated boxer, which I show you guys in my class and make you memorize, which I think is one of the more remarkable sculptures in history. And it also has a number of actually versions of the discus thrower, the Discobolus, which is one of the most famous Greek sculptures. Has a lot of other sculptures too. It's got some cool sculptures of Augustus, but the seated boxer is to me like the star of the museum. So it's a kind of nice little walk down from where that Bernini sculpture is, the Bernini Gallery. And so I can walk you down there. I think admission is like $5 or $10. It's not horribly expensive. So you don't have to go in if you want, but it's not a little bad pop-in spot. And then if we start walking back towards the hotel, again, we cross a lot of things and you can go on your own or you can stay with me. a few things in Rome that people want to see at some point in time. There's a really famous fountain called the Trevi Fountain. There's actually a few famous fountains. There's one really close to our hotel in a place called Piazza Navona, which the fountains are designed by Bernini. It's called the Fountain of the Four Rivers. That one's right next to our hotel, and we can go there whenever we want, day, night, and check it out. The Trevi Fountain's a little bit further over. The Trevi Fountain isn't done by Bernini, but was made to look like it was done by Bernini, like a couple hundred years after Bernini died. But it's one of the ones you'll see on like all the postcards. And it's one of the ones that everybody who goes to Rome takes their picture in front of and things like that. There's tons of really good gelato shops around it too. So there's some good food as well. So we'll kind of walk down there, get some gelato, check out the Trevi Fountain. And then again, there's a few other things that if we might do that day, depending on how you guys are feeling, a few other things in Rome that are good to do. One is the Pantheon, which is really close to our hotel. Again, Pantheon is one of the more remarkable architectural structures in the world. It's the first kind of big interior domed space, and it's open to the public almost all the time. Cool to walk in. They have the Oculus in there. It's a pretty dramatic building. It doesn't cost anything to go in, so it's easy, check it out kind of thing. There is a really funky church that if anybody wants to go to, let me know and I'll see where we can do it. It's called the Church of the Bones. Let's say informally, it has a real name, but it's called the Church of the Bones. And the reason is the church is tied to a monastery. And for hundreds and hundreds of years, what the monks did when people died, when like a monk would die, is they would take their bones and they would make art out of their bones. And so you actually go to this church and you go through these rooms that are decorated with these unbelievable like art installations made entirely of human bones. There's like literally like a full skeleton of a child like flying through the rafters above in one of the rooms. Like it's crazy. Like they take like all the femurs, thousands of femurs, and make like a giant femur sculpture out of it. Like they're just crazy. So it's really unique. It again costs maybe $10 to go in. It's a pretty quick, you just go in and like check out the rooms. But if anybody really wants to see that, let me know. I can try to find a time to squeeze that in. The other thing I like to do with my students is, I think one of the more remarkable artists in history and to see in Rome is the artist, the painter Caravaggio. And the thing about most of Caravaggio's works is most of them are still in the churches they were originally designed to be put in. There are a few Caravaggios in Florence and the Uffizi we'll see. There is one really iconic one in the Vatican in St. Peter's, which we're going to try to see. In the Vatican is the Caravaggio one I make you guys memorize of the kind of the descent from the cross of Jesus. But most of his paintings are just in churches. And so you kind of have to know where the churches are. And so if we have a little time, I will kind of say anybody who wants to do it, I'll do a kind of little Caravaggio walking tour where we'll walk around and check out 2 or 3 churches that have Caravaggios and go check those inside. So we might do that on that Saturday, but we have some free time the next day as well. So there will be free time and time for you to do things that day after we do a couple museums, couple spots. You'll have the rest of the day on your own to do whatever you want, or go with me places if you want to go see the Church of the Bones or whatever. And then the next day, which is Monday, we have our tour of the Vatican scheduled. So we'll go over the Vatican and do the tour there and go to St. Peter's. That takes a few hours. And then the rest of the day is on your own. I do want to warn you, Monday, most museums in Rome close on Monday. So that's why the day before is when I'm going to take you to like the Borghese and the National Roman Museum and all those things. So there will be some sites open, like the Pantheon will still be open, the fountains will be open, but a lot of the formal museums close. But we'll have another kind of half of a day to do whatever you want. One of the things that is fun to do in Rome too, and I'm going to try to arrange with our tour director, sometimes we have to pitch in a few bucks to give to the bus driver for a tip, is it's fun at night to drive around Rome and see all the sites at night, like go to the Colosseum, go to St. Peter's Basilica, go to some of the cool fountains and get some pictures and just check them out at night when they're all lit up. And so that's something I'm going to try to arrange for one of the nights, probably that either Sunday night or Monday night, to try to like have the bus driver take us around and kind of hit the major famous spots and kind of check them out at nighttime. So if you want to get some cool pictures. But again, in the evenings, you can kind of do whatever you want. We have that dinner together that first day, but then the next 2 days you have dinner on your own. So I will send out a few suggestions for places that I've eaten that are good. But to be honest, most of the food in Rome is pretty good. Like they tend to do Italian food a lot better than we do. So there's some good food around. Okay, so the day after that, day 7, we have a morning where I'm not sure, we might have a little bit of time to do a few things, but we have an afternoon flight to Athens. So we got to have time to get to the airport and fly to Athens. We get into Athens and we actually drive north of Athens to a town called Delphi. We have dinner that night in Delphi. We have a hotel in Delphi, which is just a little teeny town. It's basically a little town that's connected to one of the more famous archaeological sites in Greek history. It's a temple site that has a lot of like the ruins still there intact. And so we stay there in Delphi that night. And then in the morning, I think it's the morning, we actually take a tour of Delphi on day 8. And then after our tour of Delphi, we drive down to Athens and we have dinner in Athens together. And we have probably at least some of a part of a day and definitely the nighttime in Athens, if there's things you want to do at night in Athens. Our hotel is really close to the city center. So again, you can walk and shop or food or clubs or whatever. And then day 9 is our kind of big full day in Athens where we're going to go take a tour of the Parthenon. And that there is something that isn't included on the trip, but if you want to do it, I'll just let you know it's there. There is a museum that's associated with the Parthenon they built just a couple years ago that's right down at the base of the Parthenon, which they've taken most of the like sculptures and fragments and things and put them in that museum. And again, you can just walk in and buy a ticket. It's not crowded or things. It does have some works of art that I show you guys in class too. Like that sculpture in ancient Greece called the Critios boy, which was one of the first like times evidence we have of like Greek sculptors actually making what looked like a pretty lifelike sculpture is in that museum. And it has also some old sculptures that are old marble sculptures, but they have some of the paint residue still on them and things. There's some cool stuff in there, but some people might want to go, some people might not. So I'm not going to book that in advance, but I will let you know where it is and I will probably go. And so I'll say anybody who wants to go can follow me down after this or whatever. We also have a tour of Athens that day on our bus, and a local tour guide is going to take us around and take us to a few sites, just kind of orient you and show you a few other things in Athens. And then that night you're on your own, or we're on our own to do whatever we want on our final night there. So it is nice for those who want to have a dinner together, we can try to figure out if there's a place we want to eat dinner together. It's kind of nice to have a concluding meal as a group, but nobody's forced to do it. And then the next day we have a flight home. The flight is kind of in the afternoon, so it is nice that we don't have to get up at like 4 a.m., which frequently I've had to fly home. So I think our flight takes off at like 2 or 2:30 or something. So might even be a little bit of morning if you want to go snap some final pictures or something, but we'll have probably by 10 or so, they'll want to take us to the airport, I would guess. We might not, I guess we do have to get tested too. So at some point we have to get tested along our way to the airport. So maybe we won't have much of a warning. So we have to go get tested. And hopefully nobody has to stay behind in Athens with a chaperone to bring them meals, including myself. It could be any of us. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, so that's sort of the itinerary. So to sum up with regard to money, here's what I want you guys to do. Everybody has to give me $60 for this tour director tip. Okay. And again, this could either come via Venmo, or if you don't use Venmo and you want to just bring me like cash or a check at the airport, that's fine too. $60 is for the tour director. To get you a ticket to the Uffizi Gallery in Florence and the Borghese Gallery in Rome, the Uffizi is 25, the Borghese is 20. So I need 45 there. So if we put the 60 and the 45 together, that gets us to $105. I think most of you haven't sent me this. I think Emma sent me the 70 I put in the original email. So she'll just have to do a little math and add on a little bit. But so essentially $105 sent to me will get you your tour director tip taken care of and your admission to the Borghese and the Uffizi. And then you just want to budget a little bit, maybe $25 to go in and see Michelangelo's David instead of sending that to me in advance. Okay. So that's my plan. Like I said, I won't book any of this tonight. I'll wait till tomorrow. But if anybody doesn't want to go to either of those museums, please do let me know, because I'm going to probably I'll probably wait till tomorrow night. So I'll give you the day tomorrow to get to me if you need to. So for people who aren't here on the call, they need to watch the video. If you don't want to go to those museums, please do let me know, and I won't buy you a ticket. Otherwise, if I don't hear from you, I will buy you a ticket. Okay, I think that's everything I've got. You guys have questions for me?
I have one more.
Yes.
So Lizzie and I booked the excursion for our last night in Athens.
Oh, okay.
Where, how does that work about transportation to where we need to be?
So this is just so you guys know, when you sign up for the trip, there's like an optional excursion which goes to a site, and I think they give you dinner that night. And basically the tour director, Maria, who'll be with us, she will let you know. She'll be like, okay, a bus is going to be picking you up at 5 o'clock, probably at the hotel. So it'll be like, okay, just be at the hotel at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock or whatever. A bus will pick you up, they'll take you there, do all the stuff, and the bus will bring you home. So you don't need to worry, because you've booked it through EF, they take care of all the logistical stuff. So when we're on the ground, the tour director who's with us, she'll just let you know what time and where to be, and then they'll take care of everything else.
Awesome, thanks.
And I can check. I don't know if that's something for those of you, if it's too late to add it on, I can check and see. And I haven't ever done it before, so I don't know if it's like awesome or not, but it might be. So I'll see if I can find the information about that and let you know, and I'll see if it's too late to book or not, if anybody wanted to add it on. That one, if you can still add it on that one, you just go through EF. You don't have to send any money my way. So, okay, good question. Any other questions?
I don't know.
I was just wondering our proximity to the beach when we're in Greece.
One thing I was going to mention in Greece, I'm going to come to your, make sure I do answer the beach question, but originally, when I thought we were going to have extra days in Athens, one of the things I was going to do is I was going to take you to this cool little place where all these little fish eat dead skin cells off you, if you guys remember that trip. I was actually going to figure out how to still get you guys there, but then I looked and it shut down for COVID. They decided because of COVID to like remodel it or something. I don't know, but it's totally closed. So even if I wanted to take you there, I could not. Now, I haven't ever been to like a good beach in Athens. I have been to a beach, but it's definitely like not a good beach. It's like kind of like lots of rocky pebbles that you can kind of sit on. But I could do some research and see if there is a good Athens beach. One nice thing is Athens does have a pretty decent above ground like tram line. So you don't have to worry about buses, which are a little dicier, you know where buses go, but rather it's just like above ground little like tram things that you can hop on and off pretty easily. And usually actually where our hotels have been down closer on the coast by the water, like way outside of the city of Athens. So I do know that from the center of Athens, you can get a tram down along the coast. So I would guess you could definitely get to water within 15 minutes from the center of Athens on a tram. What I don't know is where the best beach spot is, but I can try to do a little research. And if I find anything out, we could try to see that. I forgot, I was going to check in advance. See, I don't think any of our hotels have pools. Sometimes they do, but when I was looking, I didn't see pictures of pools, at least when I was clicking through pictures. But there is a chance there will be a decent beach in Athens, since we sadly lost all the good beaches on our cruise. If that second day, because I think I'll have to double check. I don't think I've been given a time yet on when our Parthenon tour is scheduled, but if it's scheduled early, then we could, and our tour is early, there'd probably be like the evening, go down, like see the sunset on the coast, which is kind of nice. Or if it's later in the day, then we could get up early in the morning and go down and check out a beach and see the water and stuff if we want to. So I'll see if I can check into that. I actually think that's not a terrible idea. Athens is a city, I don't know, like seeing the Parthenon is like remarkable. Like it's really amazing. But the city of Athens itself, I've never found to be quite as pleasant as most of the other cities in Europe I've gone to. So actually going down to the beach isn't like too bad of an idea if there's a good beach. So I'll see if I can find anything out about like a good spot, and I'll check. I've been on the public transportation force, so I'll look and see where the lines go and how tricky to be to get to the water somewhere. So maybe pack a
Thanks, I'll look
swimsuit
into it.
case. Rachel, did you have a question too?
Yeah, I don't know if somebody's asked this in the past. I I do know some of the countries over there are bilingual. What's like the language barrier over there?
Yeah, it's a good question. So when you're in touristy areas, most, especially in Italy, like if you're trying to buy a ticket at a ticket office or order off a menu or something, usually they know enough English to get by. And Greece is a little, I found Greece to be like English is not quite as common, but again, if you're at museums and big touristy spots, usually they have menus in English and they know enough English to get by. So it's usually not an issue. What I would suggest, and this is something when we get on the ground, well, especially we have our tour guide is Italian, so she'll give us good advice. The best thing to do is always to sort of apologize for not knowing their native tongue. So in their language, just learn the phrase like, I'm sorry, I don't speak Italian, I only speak English. And then usually after you apologize and at least acknowledge and don't expect them to know English, they're much more likely to be friendly. And sorry, some idiot's trying to call me on Facebook. So that's usually the line you should memorize, like pardon, like, and I don't speak English. Usually you can get by. The only times it's really tricky, usually we have the tour guide with us. So like checking into a hotel, sometimes we were, but she'll be there to facilitate all that. The restaurants, again, if you're in the center of the city, they almost always have a menu in English. So it really shouldn't be much of an issue at all. But it is good to, like I said, kind of apologize in advance for not knowing their language when you're with native peoples over there.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions? I'm hoping this is officially the last time. I think I've told you multiple times the last meeting I'm having you go to, but I think this one's official. So we're going to cross our fingers. Be careful this week. Wear your mask when you go into public places. And hopefully we won't have any negative tests, but do make sure you arrange for getting a COVID test because you will definitely need that to get on the trip. If you have any issues with vaccination status or anything, please inform me right away so I know in an email. I will send out an email. I'm not going to summarize this whole meeting because it was long. I've got a video of it I'll put on YouTube and send a link out to if you need to rewatch anything. But I'm going to send out just like a really brief email with my phone number and just a few basic things that I covered in the email so you have it in text. Okay. All right. I will work on tomorrow night, probably booking those tickets. So most of you used Venmo before. It's my wife's Venmo at Liz Coltrane. So you can just send it there and I'll keep a record of all the payments that are made and things. Okay. All right. Well, hopefully things go well. I'm excited. I think we should have a great time. If you have questions in between now and then, feel free to email me, or I guess you can call my phone if I have it turned on. I'll try the next week to have my phone like active and you can get a hold of me there if you need to. Okay. All right. I'll see you all at the airport. Oh, I just say, Aaron, I'm going to take Aaron to the airport and I'm taking Rachel home from the airport. If anybody else needs a ride either to or from the airport, I know we leave kind of late and get back even later. Let me know because I've got a minivan. My wife will be dropping me off and picking me up, and I don't think we're hauling the rest of our kids. They're just going to stay at home. So we've got extra seats. So let me know. Aaron, I will coordinate with you exactly what time we need to leave. I try to get there hopefully a little bit before everybody else. So I'll do the math and I'll let you know for sure, Aaron. I would guess it'll be around 4-ish, maybe 4:15 or something like that. But yeah.
Thank
yeah, so let me know if anybody else needs a ride, but if not, I will see you at the airport. I'll hand you a insurance card and a FFP2 mask and anything else I've got for you, and we'll check in, go out. Should have plenty of time. Hopefully if we get there on close to 6, we got 3 hours, plenty of time to then go get some decent food. There's a lot of good food in the airport. I mean, fast food, but decent food in the airport. Get a good meal in you, and that way you're not too hungry on the plane, and if you want to rest on the plane, you can hopefully do that. Okay.
And it's 6 o'clock at the airport.
6 o'clock, yeah, that's what we're aiming for. And again, if you're a little early or a little late, it's not the end of the world. If I will try to get there by about 5:30. If you get there before me, feel free to just hang out. I remember, I'm not totally sure. We have a kind of a weird flight that's like an Air France flight, but like operated by Delta Airlines. So I'm not totally sure if we check in at the Delta counter or the Air France counter. I'll try to get there in advance and figure that out. And then I'll, hang out by the counter. So if you go to one counter and I'm not there, check, it's Delta, check Air France, but they're not that far apart. So yep, I'll be there. Make sure you bring your passport, a picture of your ID, and your vaccination card. Those things are all very important to have on hand. Okay. All right. Well, good to see everybody. Thanks for coming. Sorry the meeting was so long, but hopefully at least feel a little bit better about knowing what's going on the trip. Do feel free in any of the cities, in Rome and Florence, especially, we have some free time to check out if there's things you want to do on your own that I didn't cover, like the beach or whatever. You can do some research, check that out. Okay. All right. I'll see y'all in about a week.
Thank you.
Bye.